Hello, everyone. I'm Anders E.T. Hersberg, and this is the Cap Ball Saloon, a podcast dedicated to the Second Amendment in the digital age. On today's episode, we'll be talking about the updates in the P320 Airforce shooting. We'll be going over Rare Breed suing everyone, and we'll be talking briefly about Bob Vogel's arrest, as well as a ton of other topics for FFLs in optimizing your website and managing your social media presence. For that and more, stay tuned. A quick word about Cap and Ball Digital Strategies. We are, of course, a digital marketing agency. We connect FFLs with shooters through high-quality SEO and digital marketing services. So, if you'd like to learn more about how we can help you grow your bottom line, visit us at capandballseo.com. But with that out of the way, let's get on to today's show proper. So for our first segment, we'll be talking about the updates in the P320 M18 Airforce shooting. Now, on our last episode, we did cover the most recent P320 developments, but it appears that the incident that led to the death of an airman may have a little bit more to it than was initially reported. The death of Airman Braden Lovan, 21, prompted a full check of all of the M18 pistols, but it had been reported that the investigation had turned into a criminal one. Well, now there's been an actual arrest. So from an article in Task and Purpose, we see that there's been an arrest of an unnamed second airman who is being accused of making a false official statement, obstruction of justice, and involuntary manslaughter. Now, of course, this is all innocent until proven guilty, and who knows exactly what happened until all the details come out. But at this point, all we can really do is speculate until those details come out. But given that the Swiss have also seen issues with the P320 family as well, I can't rule out a malfunction as still having been part of this particular incident. Now, some may be saying that this vindicates SIG in this particular instance, but I do still hold that this is a much more complex issue that has only been compounded by the way SIG has poorly been handling this situation and all of the others that it's been dealing with. But as a final word on this, I would still caution those who are on either side of the debate from rushing to a conclusion about this particular incident. It seems that there's more to it, and we might not necessarily be able to blame the M18 P320 for everything here when there's been an involuntary manslaughter charge, at least put forth in this particular case. We really do need to see more details come out and know exactly what happened before some kind of a rational decision can be come to in this particular incident. Now, all of the other issues with the P320 and the way that SIG has been handling this particular situation, that's a whole other kettle of fish. And while I still maintain that I don't want to see the P320 fail and never have, the way that this whole thing has been handled has been absolutely terrible. And again, I'm going to say that the only real solution for SIG at this point is to get rid of everybody at the C-suite level, start over as a brand new company, quote unquote, and take a dramatically different tact in the way that they've been handling this and all of the other incidences that have happened. But we'll see. But with this latest development, I'm curious as to what your guys' thoughts are. Does this particular indictment of a second airman change your opinion of this incident? Does it factor in at all for you? Do you still not trust the P320 necessarily? Let me know in the comments section below. But that wraps up our discussion of the P320 updates. Let's move on to our next topic. Well, it seems that even industry conferences can't be free from industry drama and lawsuits, and I'm not referring to the rather silly dust-up over GunCon this year from the guys over the Gun Collective. That GunCon thing was just bad. Though you'd think they would vet the venue a little bit better, and the venue itself would be a little bit smarter than to create a big issue over a couple of people. And I do kind of miss just naked capitalism. Like, I just want to make money. Whatever happened to that? But anyway, it seems that instead, there's been a cease and desist letter issued by Rare Breed Triggers to Active Safety Designs. Well, both of them were at the Gun Owners of America Goals event. Now, honestly, this is kind of in poor taste for starters. Granted, this is an industry event. If it really was an issue of logistics for serving the paperwork for Rare Breed, which I'm not really buying, then why not wait until after the event? Or just do what normal people do and email and or certified mail a cease and desist letter. They couldn't have done that? But honestly, I think this just adds additional fuel to my personal speculation that Rare Breed is trying to chill the market. There's more lawsuits flying right now than I can reasonably keep track of, and I really would encourage those of you who are interested in what's going on with Rare Breed and their lawsuits to check out Stamboleth Law on YouTube for some proper updates on what Rare Breed is up to and the minutia of the back and forth litigation that Rare Breed is involved in. He has been keeping tabs on all of the Rare Breed cases, and he's been doing a really good job of breaking down all of them with his reporting. Honestly, he's not that much bigger than me as a channel with just over 2.5k subscribers, so I would encourage you to check him out. He's been doing a good job with his reporting and has been a fun channel, at least for me, to watch. Now, as a side note on this, and something that I think is a little bit more relevant to the whole issue at large here, is just kind of a general word of caution about these kinds of litigious actions. I think that a lot of people forget that when they're going into these kinds of legal proceedings, they're not just dealing with the law and the facts of the case, they're also dealing with the court of public opinion as well. And Rare Breed, I mean, they may win some of their suits, but I fear that they're not really handling the protection of their patents very well, and taking this litigious stance without really trying to explain themselves or do some sort of charm campaign to explain why they think they're in the right and try to win people over is probably going to do much more damage in the long run to their business than if they had just said, oh, well, we're only going to sue a couple of people, or we're not going to really sue anybody or do half-hearted attempts at it. I don't know. I really do think that Rare Breed is causing themselves more problems than they're ultimately solving, and they really are creating a chilling effect with this litigation. And I think they're playing into the hands of those that want to see forced reset triggers be regulated, but couldn't really do it through proper channels. The best that I can say here in this case is that they're creating a situation where smaller designers and manufacturers might not even want to enter into this market for fear of getting sued by Rare Breed, and that creates a situation where, worst case scenario, Rare Breed does so much damage to their reputation that they can't function as an entity anymore. No one else can really get into the market because Rare Breed scared everyone else off, or continues this patent litigation to try and stop everybody else. So you end up, instead of what it should be, where the settlement allows for forced reset triggers to be on the market properly, you have this slow decline of forced reset triggers being on the market, and they become really difficult to get, which was kind of the point of the control over forced reset triggers. So I'm tinfoil hat, ton of salt here, but it just seems like this is way too convenient for the people still in the administration who want to push firearms control, and they see forced reset triggers as no different than machine guns, even though they are definitely not machine guns as defined by the law. So, I don't know. I mean, I don't have any proof. I don't have any evidence. This is rampant speculation again. But it just seems like Rare Breed Triggers is playing into a scheme to chill, quell, and destroy the forced reset trigger market with all of their lawsuits, and then the ham-fisted way that they're going about it is breeding all of this bad public sentiment that could potentially eventually destroy their own company. I don't know. Maybe I'm totally wrong about this. Maybe this is complete tinfoil hat. I'm off in La La Land. You guys let me know. Am I completely off base here? Am I going off cuckoo, fugazi, fugazi, what have you? Or do you kind of agree with me that there might be a little bit more to this than just Rare Breed trying to defend their patents? Let me know in the comments section below. But I think that wraps up everything that I wanted to talk about for the Rare Breed trigger debacle. And let's move on to our next segment. Now, on to our next segment. Now, previously in my YouTube comments, I believe it was on a video discussing the P320. I was called the TMZ of the gun world or something like that. Well, I think that's probably more Ben Stoger's bag than my own, but at least with this particular topic, I don't think I'm exactly going to be beating that accusation today. We will be talking, of course, about the arrest of Bob Vogel, and apparently he is facing some serious charges for what I'll call activities with a severe age gap to at least try and keep this somewhat YouTube friendly. Now, look, right now, everything is in the he said, she said stage, but if charges are being filed, then there's one of two things going on here. Either somebody at the DA absolutely hates Vogel, or there's something to this. I don't know, I mean, I don't have any reason to suspect that somebody at the DA absolutely hates Vogel, so I'm going with the more likely explanation and the Occam's razor explanation, which is there's probably something to this, especially if there was an alleged incident, personal device was taken into evidence, and now after a certain period of investigation, they're levying charges. Now, granted, I could be wrong, and of course I will be reserving final judgment on this until more facts are actually available, but I can't help but think of a similar situation with Will Hayden and his particular actions. If you're not familiar, that was Red Jacket Firearms and the Sons of Gun reality TV show on the Discovery Channel that was abruptly discontinued and dropped from syndication after certain charges of a similar nature were levied against Will Hayden, of which he was convicted. Again, I will reserve my final judgment on the Vogel case until more facts are out, but this doesn't look good for him, and unfortunately, even if Vogel does get acquitted and is proven to be completely blameless, which, at least for the moment, I'm going to press X to doubt on, this is the kind of thing that tends to follow people around for a very, very extended period of time, unfortunately. But, again, I think I should wrap up this whole thing by saying we are dealing with charges everyone's innocent until proven guilty. As bad as those charges look, we should be taking the stance that, again, everyone is innocent until proven guilty. And until the full facts of the case are adjudicated, I'm going to reserve judgment and wait to hear what a jury and or a judge says, and attempt to see all of the facts and evidence presented in the case for myself before creating some kind of a judgment here. But at least those are my personal thoughts and my personal stance on any kind of charges, even those of a serious nature like this. But what are your guys' thoughts on this particular topic? Let me know in the comment section below. But with that out of the way, let's move on to our next segment. So for our next segment, we'll be talking about Beretta USA launching their 92X Performance Carry Optic Dark Series. Say that 5 times fast. In an article from the Tactical Wire, Beretta unveils the latest evolution to its elite competition pistol lineup, the 92X Performance Carry Optic Dark Series. Holy crap, Beretta, can you please tack on more names to this particular pistol? I think it needs a couple more words there. It's not quite long enough. But anyway, obviously this is a evolution of the 92X series that we've already seen previously, and honestly, it's kind of cool. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the, overdone racy gun, but at least for me, the 92X, XI, and some of the other ones that are dropping the slide-mounted safety for a frame-mounted safety, decocker, what have you, is much, much better to me. At least for my inner 1911 FUD who likes the frame-mounted 1911 style safety, if it's going to be there, this, at least to me, is a dramatic improvement over the basic Beretta 92 model with the slide-mounted safety. I've never found it overly intuitive, but that's a personal preference kind of thing. Now, obviously, the 92X Performance Carry Optic Dark Series is, of course, aimed at competition shooters, and Beretta says it's complies fully with USPSA Carry Optics Division regulations, ensuring it's match-ready from day one. So, cool. It's aimed at competition shooters, and its MSRP is equally commiserate with its target market. I believe, yes, it's around $1,700 for its MSRP. I would imagine street price would be a little bit less than that, but we'll have to see once these actually start hitting, local FFLs or people start ordering them. Street price does tend to be a little bit less, but on something like this, I can't imagine that it's going to see a huge discount in terms of its actual street price. But at least I'm seeing Beretta do something cool with the 92. I have always just in general liked the Beretta 92s. They've just never been something that I've been overly fond of because of that, slide-mounted safety / decocker, depending on the model. But this one, if money was no object, I would probably be really, really interested in this particular one. But at $1,700, oof, ow. I think I might have to stick with my Rugers for the moment. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are. Do you on the Carry Optic Dark, goofy name aside, are you guys interested in something like this? Do you have any other pistols or rifles that are coming out soon that you're personally excited for? Let me know in the comments section below. But with that out of the way, let's move on to our next section of segments where we're going to be talking more directly to FFLs, and we're going to be talking about a number of topics that I think are going to be directly related to digital marketing, SEO, and helping to improve your own personal websites. So let's get into that. Now, the first thing that I wanted to go over was URL website structures specifically. So up here I have Xmind Mind Manager. This is a free tool that I like for creating mind maps, and I also find it very useful for helping to diagram out website structures and how things are going to be built out, at least in the initial phases of construction for a website. So let's see here. So starting from the top, you're going to have your home page. That's going to be this bit right here. This is, if you're not familiar, www.yourffl.com. That's going to be your home page URL. That's going to be the top level page of your website. Anything under that is going to be sub pages. So a proper URL structure should look something like this, ideally. Just make sure I'm capturing. Yes, okay. So let's say we have, it would be www.yourffl.com/ let's just say pistols. And then we would have /rifles. And then we might have /shotguns. Now, let's use pistols as an example. Under that, I mean, we could break it down into a few different ways, but, we could do something like a manufacturer breakdown. So we could do like Glock. And then we could do Colt. Oops. And then we could do like /Ruger. Just to give you a couple of examples. So we would have your primary homepage. Then you would have a sub page that would be, pistols. And then you would have on this sub page, your major popular brands. What are you selling the most of would be up at the top. And then from there, you could have something like, an alphabetized list, or you could have it arranged slightly differently, depending on what your particular product offerings are. But your URL structure should look something like this. So this page right here should look something like www.yourffl.com/pistols. And then this right here, for Glock in particular, should look something like this. And this allows a search engine like Google to have an easier time understanding what's going to be on that particular page. Because, our next drill down would be like Glock G17, right? So our URL structure should look something like, you know what? I kind of messed that up because URLs don't like spaces. There we go. So you should have something like yourffl.com/pistols/Glock/Glock G17. And then that would be the individual product page where your listing for the Glock 17 lives with all of its product descriptions and everything. But this allows a search engine to be able to understand that your website has all of these different things, and then in pistols, and specifically from the brand Glock, you have the G17 listed for sale. Now, there's more that we can go into with this particular topic in terms of, like 301 redirects, if you're trying to take an existing website and restructure it. That's its own whole kettle of fish. But if you're building a website from scratch, this is kind of how you should be thinking about structuring your website. And as another benefit for, users who are a little bit more savvy, they can also understand quite easily by just looking at the URL where they're at on your site. Obviously, they're in your pistol offerings, they're looking at the Glock brand pistols, and then they're looking specifically at the Glock 17 just by looking at the URL structure. This also gives you an opportunity to also include additional keywords within your URLs as well. So if you're not familiar, a keyword is something that you would be searching for in a search engine like Google, or even on a social media platform like YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, that kind of thing. But with a URL structure like this, you can include keywords pistols, Glock, G17, that kind of thing as part of this URL structure. Then we can do something a little bit similar for something like your ammunition. So for ammo, we could break it down like this. We could do rifle ammo, and then we could do pistol ammo. And then we could do shotgun shells. And we could break it up into these logical categories. Now, of course, there's going to be a lot of like whataboutisms, like, if we put, say we put 223 under rifle ammo. Well, obviously there are 223 pistols, and what if we put 9mm under, pistol? Well, there are 9mm rifles too, so what do? This is the kind of thing where we want to be talking about what's the most commonly accepted categorization. Yes, obviously there are going to be exceptions, but for something like this, what's the most logical and common structuring? We don't want to create a structuring where, we put 223 under pistol ammo and 9mm under rifle ammo, because this is going to be confusing to search engines and users as well. Because search engines generally are going to be looking for, consensus of information. They're going to be they're going to be looking at your website and saying, well, most people are saying that, 223 ammo is rifle ammo and 9mm is pistol ammo. Why does this particular website have 223 as pistol ammo and 9mm as rifle ammo? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and give you a negative mark, if you will, in your overall calculation of your SEO scores. Obviously, this isn't the end-all, be-all, but making sure that the way that you're structuring your actual, product offerings to make sense even to a layperson is important, to make sure that you're not accidentally creating a situation where you have this kind of like silent penalty because you're, for lack of a better term, not going with the crowd in the way that your product offerings are being structured. But this kind of gives you an idea of how you want to structure your website and put everything together for your various product offerings. If you'd like, I can go into a little bit more detail, and if you have any like specific questions, ask them about URL structures and how it relates to SEO for FFLs. Let me know in the comments section below. I'll either answer directly or put together a actual proper response with a little bit more information in a follow-up video down the line. But let's say we dive into a particular product offering. What are some of the ways that we can optimize a particular product offering page? Well, there is something called schema markup. So let's say that you have your website structured and everything, but you want to start optimizing individual product pages, because let's face it, that's where we want to get people actually to, because they're probably searching for something like, uh, buy Glock G17 or buy Glock G34, what have you. And you want them on a specific product page because that's probably what they're looking for, and they're most likely to convert if they land on that page instead of having to land on your home page, then find the product that they're looking for from your home page, yada, yada, yada. Well, how do you optimize your individual product pages? Well, that's where schema markup comes into play. Now, previously I have discussed using schema markup for things like, your business location, business hours, etc., and stuff like that. Those are the kinds of things that you're going to want to be embedding across your website, or at the very least your homepage. But schema markup has a lot more flexibility than just that. And nowadays, with tools like ChatGPT, creating proper schema markup for an individual product page is actually really, really easy, and a lot easier than it used to be. So let me show you a quick example using, Glock 17 and ChatGPT, and show you how we can quickly create individual schema markup for a particular product on your website so that you can embed it into that page, or your web developer can embed it into that page. First things first, let's go to ChatGPT, and we're going to be creating a product schema markup. And I'll show you the individual prompts that you can use. You can do slightly different prompts, but basically this is going to be the gist of how you get it and how you validate the schema markup once ChatGPT has actually generated it for you. So first, let's do this. Let's go to Google, and let's do Glock 17. And let's take a look at this here. So we have all of our technical data and dimensions and everything. So let's go to ChatGPT and say, can you please up for me using the following. And then we're going to say name Glock. Let's just say G3, G17. Product brand Glock. And then we can go over to Glock's website, and we can just snag all of this stuff. And hopefully, I did do a little bit of a test using information from Sportsman's Warehouse in this and it seemed to work okay. Let's see if ChatGPT can figure this out. Hey, there we go. So, and then you can see here, it's also giving us some suggestions for adding fields for offers with a price, availability, and condition. So let's see, I would like you to add price. Let's just say $599.99. Then oops, I can't spell today. Availability, in stock, and then condition, new. And then, so it's going to create all of this code here for us. Now, the next thing that we're going to want to do before we actually put any or make any of this actually live on the website or publish it is we're going to want to go ahead and copy this information here. And then we're going to want to find Google's schema validation tool. Schema markup validator, then Google developers. And then we're going to want the schema markup validator. Then we're going to go to code snippet, and we're going to paste in the code that we just had ChatGPT create for us. And then we're going to run a test. And then what we're going to look for here is 0 errors and 0 warnings. So this is going to make sure that Google can actually translate and figure out what's going on in all of this code. Because the thing about, schema markup is none of this is actually going to be visible to a human user on the website. This is strictly for machines. So this is so that they understand what the item that's being or product that's being talked about on a specific page, or any additional or specific information on the page and its context. Like, we inherently know what a hammer is. Like, it's for driving nails. But a machine doesn't necessarily know what a hammer is just by looking at interacting with a picture of a hammer. So it needs things like alt text, where there's a little bit of code that is tied to that image that says this is a photo of a hammer, and then the computer, the search engine, or what have you, has the ability to say, okay, this is a hammer. And then schema markup goes above and beyond that by providing additional context. To kind of break it down, it's like, we know that a hammer's head is normally metal and the handle is normally wood, but a computer doesn't know that. So the schema markup provides that additional context by saying head material, stainless steel, handle material, birch wood or cedar wood or whatever. But basically, it's giving computers and search engines that additional context that we would normally just be able to immediately intuit, but a computer and a machine just doesn't have on its own. That's what schema markup is for. Now, in other product categories beyond firearms and ammunition, there is also rich snippets and enhanced search results that Google may show for particular products from particular websites if they think that it's worthwhile enough. There's additional things that go into it, but basically you can get additional features and get better click-through rates because, your search result looks better, if you will, quote unquote, on the search results page from Google, because you've done this additional work in providing additional context and stuff like that for your product. Now, for firearms and ammo, that's just flat out not going to happen. But you aren't doing the additional legwork to say, hey, I care enough about my website and its quality of information to go above and beyond and give you all of this additional context to my product listings that I guarantee you the vast majority, if not all of your competition, is not doing right now. Because this is the kind of thing that really does start to get into the weeds when it comes to on-page SEO and on-page optimization. And last I checked, not too terribly long ago, only about 30% of websites overall are actually implementing schema markup. Now, apply that to an industry that, let's face it, guys, does not have a great relationship with digital marketing or technology in general. That's probably closer to maybe like 2%, if I'm being generous. So I would be willing to bet that you might see some dramatic improvements from, doing an optimization and improvement like this, especially if your, local competition as a local FFL isn't doing these same things to try and improve and build out their website. But the whole point of this is to show you that this can be done incredibly easily. This does not take very long. All you have to do is plug in basically copied and pasted product specifications from each product that you're offering into ChatGPT, say, hey, make me the schema markup, do a little bit of validation to make sure that everything looks right, like the description doesn't have anything goofy in it or something like that. Make sure your SKU's correct and all of this other stuff. Just this, it doesn't require somebody with a ton of coding knowledge to be able to go through here and just double check the validity of all of this stuff. It is something that a layman can do, because all of this stuff in quotes is what we're checking, and we're just making sure that everything looks correct. And so long as everything looks correct, you can put it into the code on your website for that particular product page and improve your on-page SEO. But I think that wraps up everything that I wanted to talk about in terms of product schema markup for FFLs. Again, this is a very powerful tool that gives additional context to search engines that I just don't see very many people in general doing, and I flat out don't see a whole lot of FFLs, if any, really out there actually trying to improve their website and online presence with this kind of stuff. So, as you can see, not super difficult to do, especially with tools like ChatGPT, and I'm not even using the paid version here. This is the free version, just your basic free version, asking it a couple of questions. Obviously, if you want to do something like this at scale with hundreds and hundreds of product offerings, you are going to need the paid version for that, but you don't need the paid version to do this quickly for a handful of products. So if you guys have any questions about digital marketing as an FFL, or if you have any other digital marketing SEO questions in general, let me know in the comment section below, and I'll either follow up with you directly in the comment section if it's something quick and easy, or if it's something that more people can benefit from, I'll create another segment in a future video specifically dedicated to answering your question and helping you out. But I think that wraps everything up here. Let's move on to our last and final segment, talking about social media scheduling for FFLs. So for our last segment, we'll be talking about social media platforms and how to schedule posts on each of them. Now, granted, you can get a social media management tool. There are plenty of out there, and they run the gambit of everything from, hyper complex tools like Hootsuite that are going to cost you hundreds of dollars a month, all the way down to basic stuff like OneUp, where it's $20 a month to manage like 10 different social media profiles. But what if your shoestring budget and really don't want to go through the trouble of subscribing to a social media management platform? Well, you can still avoid all of the rigmarole of having to be constantly posting on social media every single day by scheduling posts. And that's the topic of this section. I'm going to be walking you through how to do a scheduled post for each of the major social media platforms. Now, of course, Cap Ball SEO is on YouTube, Twitter, or X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Like, I have social media profiles for the business across everywhere. Heck, even Pinterest, Threads, Rumble, basically everything. And all of these different platforms have their own, built-in scheduling options. So you can take the better part of a day if you want to, sit down and schedule out a whole week's worth of scheduled posts and content if you have everything already ready to go. Now, previously I have talked about, creating a basic folder structure with, a month and then, 31 different folders inside of that for each day of the month, and each of those folders can contain your, social media posts for that day. Quick, dirty, really easy way to put together a kind of pseudo content calendar for yourself without having to do a whole bunch of subscribing to a social media management tool and blah 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 blah. Super simple, straightforward. I like the keep it simple solutions, and I do still use this because it helps keep me organized. So let's start out with our first social media platform, YouTube. Now, of course, YouTube, you have a number of different options here. You can do, shorts, you can do long form videos, and you can also do image or other types of posts. I'll be showing you how to do, your general video posts, and then I'll show you how to do a general post as well, because the process is a little bit different. Shorts and long form are pretty much the same. But let's start out here. So obviously you're going to want to go into, your YouTube backend, your YouTube studio. And of course, I am assuming that you have all of these different social media profiles set up. We aren't going to be going through the whole setup process for every single one of these. But they're all relatively straightforward to sign up for, get up and running, yada, yada, yada. So, in YouTube Studio, you'll want to go to Create, and then we'll start out by uploading videos. And I'll pull up here a folder for videos to schedule for the 13th. And I have a couple of shorts that I want to publish for that day. So we'll drag and drop those over. And then we'll just kind of wait a minute for this to upload here. And then since these are shorts in a vertical format, if it's less than 3 minutes long and in a vertical format, it should automatically get dumped into the shorts segment. Now in here we have of course our title, our description, and you can set up pre-made description bits and pre-made title bits and stuff like that if you would like to. But the next thing that we'll do here is we will actually edit our title here, because this is going to be pulled directly from the file name that you're uploading. And we'll just make this a little bit prettier. And for this, we'll just add a hashtag. Obviously, you want to do something relatively relevant. So we'll say, and then so once you have your title, your description, you can add it to a playlist. Now for my shorts videos, I right now haven't been worried about categorizing them into a playlist. I've been mostly worrying about that for long form videos. Then we'll say, does any of the following describe your content? Basically, this is just, have you been using AI in any of your stuff? You want to make sure you're saying no on that. And honestly, I don't like AI stuff in AI generated video in general for these kinds of things, because it's horrifically obvious when you're trying. Anyway, next, we'll go down here to tags. Now, there's a number of different schools of thoughts on how many tags you should have, yada, yada, yada. I just try to keep a handful of relatively relevant tags added on to each video. So So I'll just add a few that are specific to that, and then I have a few general tags that I add onto each video because they're relevant to pretty much everything that I'm talking about. So most of this stuff I already have default. And then we'll click next. And then for shorts, you can add a related video. So one of the things that I do on a regular basis is I take these short form videos, which are basically just going to be cutouts from longer form videos like the one I'm recording right now, and direct them and use the shorts to kind of direct people back to the longer form videos. So for this particular one, Google Maps SEO or FFLs, that's the long form video that I'm going to be directing people to from this short. And then, copyright, no issues found, good. And then for visibility. So for the scheduling portion of this, we're actually going to hit schedule, of course. And then we're going to say August 13th. And then we're going to put in 06:00 and just hit enter. Now, fortunately, this does understand 24-hour time format, so that makes my life a little bit easier. And I generally post everything at 6 a.m. in terms of video content. And you can set your specific time zone if you'd like to, but 6 a.m. for my time zone is what I have been sticking with for my upload times. Then you just hit schedule and you're just about done. Now, the thing about YouTube Shorts is it does have a little bit of an annoying thing here. And, oops, I just accidentally turned off my logo. But whatever. We'll get that back up in just a minute. So, for YouTube Shorts, if you do want to edit the thumbnail that appears in the YouTube Shorts, you actually have to go into the YouTube mobile app. So, as you can see, hopefully, you can see that in the YouTube mobile app. And then we're going to be going to Shorts here. And then there's going to be a little 3-button icon that you're going to click on. Then there's a little pencil icon on there. You're going to click on that guy. And then that is going to bring up a timeline here at the bottom. And then what I do is at the front of all of my shorts videos, I have a title and a thumbnail that I've already created. So what this does here is it allows me to actually have a pre-made thumbnail already inside of the video, and I just select that particular frame, and then I hit the little check mark up at the top there, and then you're going to want to hit the blue save button there. Now, unfortunately, this editing of the YouTube Shorts thumbnail can only be done inside of the YouTube mobile app, not the YouTube Studio mobile app, not YouTube Studio desktop, the YouTube Studio or the YouTube mobile app only, and that's the only place that right now that they're letting you actually edit those thumbnails. But if I refresh here, you can see that we've updated that thumbnail. So we'll go to our next one here, and we'll just do the same thing. And we'll say firearms history. And the US. And then, of course, same thing I was talking about previously. Get our tags in here. And we'll say alter content, no, add our related video. And then we're going to have our long form video that we're going to try and get people to. We're going to do our scheduling for the time, and we hit schedule. And then again, we'll turn around and we'll do the same thing in the YouTube mobile app here on the phone. But that should give you an idea. That should give you an idea of, everything that goes into scheduling a standard video for YouTube. Now, another thing that you can also do with YouTube is you can also create posts. So we'll go up here again to create, and we'll say instead of upload videos, we'll create a post. Now, here we have, we can do stuff like text polls, image polls, quizzes, we can highlight a video. But right now, I've just been contenting myself with working on or doing image-based posts. So I have image here, and then we're going to drop that in. I've already got my text that I wanted to put in, and of course my customary typos. And then now normally you would just hit post, but to actually schedule it, you're going to hit this little drop down here, and then you're going to hit schedule post. Make sure you guys can actually, you can still see my screen. So this is a little bit different. It's going to be a drop down. You're going to get, your day and then your time. I don't really have a set time. I've just been kind of experimenting a little bit and just collecting some data, but we'll schedule it for 9 a.m. and then we'll just hit schedule. And then we'll hit our scheduled tab here, and we can see this. And we have it as a scheduled post, and it's going to pop up tomorrow at 9 a.m. my time. And then you just do the same thing for any other posts. You can, of course, create, your image posts. You can do a text poll. You have your quizzes, and you can, highlight an existing video if you want to. And a whole bunch of other stuff that you could potentially do to drive engagement with your audience on YouTube. But I think that wraps up everything as far as like scheduling posts go for YouTube. Now, the next platform that we'll talk about is TikTok. Well, I got slightly interrupted by the fact that TikTok decided to completely nuke my account. So we're going to start with a brand new one as part of this tutorial. Yippee! All right. Well, so to pick up where I left off. So we're going to go into upload, and we're going to have this box right here. This is going to be where you're going to drag and drop your videos into. Let me show you here. So we're in the account. We have our little drag and drop box there. And well, I guess the only thing that I'm going to be posting to TikTok now is going to be shorts that are exclusively marketing related. I'm not going to talk about any more firearms content on TikTok, to be perfectly honest with you. Anyway, I won't rant about this particular BS, but we'll just upload this short here, the importance of Google Business Profile. And we'll turn this check on, and then just go back to my channel content like I normally do. We'll copy and paste in that and our description that we've already created. Now, this is a little bit lazy, and I would recommend doing a little bit more per platform customization than what I'm currently doing when it comes to the content. But next, we want to go to our cover here, and we're going to, again, like I was saying, I have a built-in thumbnail for all of my shorts videos as I'm creating them. That's in the front. You can also put this towards the back of the actual video and have it just be 1 frame long. I like to do it this way. It gives a little bit of a better introduction, at least in my opinion. But this is by not the only way to do something like this. And we'll just hit confirm on that, and then we're going to schedule. And so I normally start posting videos at noon, and we'll set this for tomorrow, and we will hit schedule. And that's it, relatively straightforward. And hopefully this version of my Cap and Ball account doesn't get nuked for stupid BS. Alright, next up, we are going to go into the Meta platform. Now, I would recommend taking advantage of the Meta Business Suite and tying in your Facebook and Instagram profiles into it. I'm not going to go over that particular setup process here, just the scheduling portion of things, but know that through the Meta Business Suite, you can manage tied profiles for both Facebook and Instagram business profiles. So first things first, we are going to create a reel, and we're just going to do the same thing. I'm going to go to add video here, and then we're going to go into my social media folders, and we're going to go into the upcoming video. I'm just going to paste in that. It's going to upload. And once this is done processing, we'll be able to select our thumbnail. And again, I have my little thumbnail there. We're going to click next. And then you can do some additional customization, stuff like that. But since I already have all of my stuff edited and ready to go before I upload, I always just skip past this stuff. Now we're going to want to go to schedule. And then we're going to select our day and then our time. For this, we'll do 9 a.m. for tomorrow, and then we will schedule. And then once it's ready to go, you can check in on your planner here. And then if it will load eventually for me. There we go. So you can see all of the past posts that I've put up and then the posts that are being scheduled for tomorrow. Now, next, I'll show you how to create a image or text post. So we'll click on post there, and then we'll add photo, upload, and then we'll do rifle diagram. Then I will snag text. One of the things that I've been doing is putting the text as the name of the that I want to put down as the name of the image. This does limit you a little bit in the character count, but I do find this a good way to quickly store a small amount of text without having to have like a separate file. And then we're going to go to our scheduling options here. We're going to set our date and time. Now, as you grow in followers, you'll get intel from Meta Business Suite about your followers' active times. So tomorrow at 8 p.m. for Facebook and tomorrow at 5 a.m. for Instagram. So I'm going to set those as my scheduled post times there. And then once that's done, we'll just make sure public, that should be the default for you. And then we're going to hit schedule. And then we have everything scheduled. Now, next, we're going to go to X here, and I'll show you how to schedule posts. So you have your normal post flow process, but this is going to work the same way for both video and image posts. So I'll start uploading the video here. Then we'll go back to our video details. And we'll just paste this in because I am being a little bit lazy here. And then for scheduling, you're going to go to here. That's going to bring up this. And then you'll have drop downs. Unfortunately, this is not something that you can just like type stuff in. So I do find this slightly annoying. But we'll say 6 and we'll say PM and then we will confirm. And then now that it's fully uploaded, we'll hit schedule and then it'll be ready to go. Now, if you do need to make any edits after the fact, you can go into drafts and then they do hide it behind the scheduled here. And then you can click into it and then make additional edits and reschedule that there. Each platform has slightly similar things where you can edit your schedule posts if needed. Now for my other social media profiles, Pinterest has similar capabilities as well for scheduling posts. So you can, let's see here. Now I normally feed Pinterest by tying in my Instagram profile. That's how I generally deal with this. So I'm not having to deal with all of these profiles manually. But let's see here. Here we go. Create pin. So you can upload your drag and drop there, and then you can select publish at a later date. Select your publish day and time there, and then you can just hit schedule. So next up will be threads, and they for a while did not have a proper scheduling aspect. But if you go into this little 3-dot thing here, you can see the schedule option and you can schedule a post for a later date. So you can drag and drop. You can add your text. I know there's a typo in there. Thank you. And then you can schedule it. And actually, instead of 10 p.m., let's do 10 a.m. Done, and we will schedule. And then that's going to be posted tomorrow. And you could, if you wanted to, depending on your exact business model, like say you're doing manufacturing and not direct to consumer, that kind of thing as an FFL. You do also have LinkedIn, so I will show you guys how to do a scheduled post for your LinkedIn business profile. Here, you're going to do create, and then you're going to want to do start a post, add your stuff, and then you're going to want to click on the little clock icon there. That's going to give you your date and then the time that you're actually going to schedule it for. And then once you have everything added in and uploaded, then you can hit schedule and it'll post at the appropriate time. Now, that in a nutshell is going to be all of the various major social media platforms that you can or should be thinking about using. Another one that you could also use is Rumble. So Rumble does also have a scheduling option here. So if you go into your uploads, you can schedule it. This is also relatively straightforward. You have your calendar and your time, and then you can apply and then just upload. I won't do it here as part of this video because the upload process for Rumble is a little bit behind in terms of video and content ingestion. They're just slower than the other major platforms, unfortunately. But I do appreciate and do like Rumble because of the fact that it is independent and not focused on trying to censor and control every single little thing. So I do like it as a platform, regardless of its growing pains, if you will. But incidentally, I do also have, of course, a channel on Rumble that you guys can subscribe to if you'd like to see my stuff there. I do make sure that I'm posting all of my long form stuff. At one point, I was throwing my short form stuff on there, and honestly, Rumble's really not a great platform for short form content anyway. They don't have the vertical setup and shorts things like a lot of the other platforms do. So I've just been sticking to uploading my long form content and there, so my longer episodes. Well, like this one, actually. So you'll probably see this live on Rumble here in a few days. But I think that wraps up just about everything that I wanted to talk about in terms of scheduling content for your social media presence as an FFL. There are a lot of different platforms and a lot of different stuff in minutia that you can get into if you really want to dive into the weeds in terms of individual platform-specific optimizations and content. Each platform is its own unique beast, has its own things that need to be done to optimize for it in terms of, content production, layout, hashtags, accompanying text, and all that kind of stuff. So each one is very much its own thing, and depending on what your social media strategy is, how you want to attract customers, you may or may not want to focus on one or more of these platforms. It really depends on what your specific strategy is going to be, where and what specific customers you're targeting in terms of what kind of platforms that you're going to want to be putting the most effort into and putting the most work into. But if you're an FFL trying to work off of a shoestring marketing budget, and it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense for you to try be buying a social media management tool that's costing you easily hundreds of dollars per month, there are built-in solutions for you to be able to schedule stuff. Yes, it's not as streamlined as a single management tool for all of your social media platforms, but this at least gives you an option without you having to shell out extra cash and stretch that marketing budget even further when it's already virtually non-existent. But I think that wraps up everything that I did want to talk about for today in terms of, social media scheduling, digital marketing, and SEO on-page optimization for FFLs. Now, if you guys have any specific questions or have any specific topics that you'd like to see covered as an FFL trying to work with the digital marketing world, please let me know in the comments section below. Again, I'll either try to respond to you directly in the comments or turn it into another section where we go into more detail like this, and I kind of give you some one-on-one, some more feedback and kind of show you with some screen share stuff, what you should be doing in terms of addressing your particular question. But for those of you who have actually stuck around to the end of the video and have actually found this discussion to be useful, I thank you and I appreciate you. And some channel updates to kind of close us out. There's a few additional videos that I'm kind of working on for more of a general audience. I've got my 357 SIG history video that I have still sitting in the background that I am working on. Very much appreciate the subscriber who commented and suggested that particular topic. There's a couple of other video ideas I have kicking around that I need to work on as well. But I, again, just want to say I appreciate you guys. Of course, I am on YouTube, but also on all the other major social media as well. For all of them, it's going to be at Cap Ball SEO or at @CapandBall_SEO if you want to check us out there. Our website, we also have our newsletter where you can sign up for free and receive updates. Every time I post a new video, I'll be adding a article with accompanying show notes and everything, as well as links to all the stuff that we're discussing. But I'll just close out by saying I appreciate all of your likes, your comments, and your sharing this video. And of course, as always, I'm Anders E.T. Herzberg for the Cap Ball Saloon, hoping to see you all again real soon.